All right, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host once again, Dan Thornton. Hey, I want to thank you all for joining us here today. Lions Talk Live, Tuesday show edition. Yes, we all get it. It's the trade deadline day later today, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going to have some news and some information come on out across the NFL. Somebody's made a trade. Somebody's made an acquisition. Will the Detroit Lions be part of it? We'll have to wait and see. What we do know is there are growing reports coming out from so many of you guys that sent this to me Sunday. I didn't really think about it too much, didn't pay a lot of attention. And then Monday came. Even more of you guys sent this out to me. I tried to reach out to everybody I can, talking to them about it. And it does sound like there's some validity to what a ton of you guys who attended Ford Field and the game Sunday sent me over. Let's go through the details. At halftime, before the Lions go into the locker room, apparently there's a big heated debate between Jared Goff and a couple different players. Don't know the full extent of that. I'm continuing to look into it. They go into the locker room. Coming out of the locker room, there are reports that a couple Lions coaches were really heated coming out of the tunnel. A number of you sent me that Hank Fraley, Dan Campbell, amongst others, were getting into it. Even a couple players having some choice words with each other. Then there were some reports coming out later yesterday. This extended beyond the game and into the locker room between Jared Goff and, as you can tell from today's thumbnail, John Morton, the offense coordinator of the Detroit Lions. While I haven't gotten the full specifics about it, I think we all agree it's not A, good, and B, the performance of the offense, let alone the offensive line and just the offense as a totality, was very suspect going against the Minnesota Vikings. If you watch the live cast, the game, the play-by-play that we do, a number of us were talking about, man, if you don't know what Brian Flores is going to do after 10 plus years in the NFL, it's not like he really changes his schemes or anything. He did it over and over, and John Morton did seem to not really have a great game plan for it. Now, what got me going even further in this is when a number of you guys Sunday after the game and then yesterday brought this up to me. I went back and rewatched the game, and I encourage you guys all, if you have a moment of time, you're really kind of bored and just want to do something, go back and watch the game. I'll throw this at you. Go around the start of the second quarter when Goff gets the plays, going into the huddle, etc. Check his body language, and then check it again in the second half. You can see whoever's calling in the plays to him, and then watching Goff's facial expressions, he's less than happy with what's being called in. Now, he does have the ability to make some audibles. That's like most veteran quarterbacks. That's not a problem. But you could see the validity some of you guys are kind of adding to by saying, hey, check this out, check that out. The Lions might have a budding problem. Is it abnormal for a player and a coach not always to see eye to eye? I can only tell you through my own personal experience and having covered different sports, it does happen sometimes. But because the performance was so bad, I don't know if I could ever remember a time or people reporting that MCDC gets into it with anybody. And the fact you're coming out of the tunnel from the half, back onto the field, and that stuff's being visible. Players, coaches, personnel all know what's happening when you go out of that tunnel. The sanctity of the locker room, everything that happens in there that's kept in-house, is now free game. Why? Fans can see you. Fans don't have to follow the same rules or protocols that reporters or just, employees of Ford Field or the NFL, however you want to term it, word it, have to. This thing might have some growing steam because, to be fair, if you go back and watch, and like I was saying, rewatching tape, watching some stuff, you go back and rewatch a few of the games, and when you got time, you do these things. You can see there might be some growing level of disdain between Jared Goff and John Morton. John Morton, there was I'm recapping here. A whole lot of you guys after week one thought he was a bum, yada, yada. You could hear all sorts of people at the national level coming after John Morton. And to be fair, Kelvin Shepard too, after the Green Bay loss. After that, though, he kind of went on a tear. People said, hey, they're A-okay. But in the last 4 to 5 games, the defense for the Detroit Lions, and I do think they played pretty well overall considering the circumstances they faced against the Minnesota Vikings, because let's face it, the special teams and the offense didn't do the defense any favors. That also being said, John Morton's offense has started to grow a little bit predictable. A little bit, hey, what's going on? Have we seen St. Brown really in recent weeks? He's been kind of MIA. There's a whole lot of layers to this, and it's not unusual for frustration to come pouring out. I'm going to keep on this story, but as of right now, here's what we know. There is a growing amount of animosity between a few different components for the offense, and that seems to be highlighted by Jared Goff and John Morton really not seeing eye to eye on things. Some of this is coming from, well, I would say a lot of this originally came from members of the Dew crew or people who were at the game that messaged me about it either on Facebook, Twitter, texted me, and then talking to a couple media people for the Detroit area. They say that they have heard multiple different reports that there is some growing animosity in circle for the Detroit Lions, and that is highlighted by Jared Goff and John Morton really kind of getting into it, and apparently they got into it pretty good after the game with the Minnesota Vikings defeat. That's not a big surprise after I guess you could say probably an upset loss to a team that most would have predicted Lions would have handled pretty easily. So tempers ran high. I think the surprising part is most people would assume Jared Goff is pretty mild-mannered, and maybe we could say the same thing about John Morton, although I don't know enough about him to really have an opinion there. But with Jared Goff, during his time with Detroit, and to be fair with the Rams, he's as ho-hum, howdy-doody as he can be. So something has clearly lit a fire under him. He is on pace to be sacked more this season than at any other point in his career. That could be a contributing factor to it. The Lions offense, I think we all understand, has a ton of weapons. But in the last month or so, have we really seen a lot from the majority of those weapons? We're going to stay on top of this. I'm going to try to get you guys updates. There may even be some of you guys who are at the game that can maybe add more to it. I know I've thrown out everything I can. I've rung every phone call. I've made every contact I can. And it does seem to be there is a growing amount of disdain, not just between Jared Goff and the offense coordinator, John Morton, but maybe you could say the Lions players and the Lions coaches on the offensive side of the ball. As far as why Hank Fraley and Dan Campbell were getting into it, I have not heard any kind of confirmation on that. The only thing I can say is maybe Dan Campbell wanted Fraley to do something Fraley wasn't comfortable with. Again, that's speculation on my behalf. We are going to get into 5 headlines now. We do have Anthony from Roar Lions UK coming on today. So I wanted to start off this show a little different and get into the meat of it all. We'll dive into that more with Anthony from Roar Lions UK when he gets here. But the Lions have to squash this thing. Anytime you have animosity in-house between players and coaches, in my opinion, doesn't have to be your opinion, you need to get rid of it as quick as possible. Otherwise, it spreads like wildfire. Yes, the Lions are 5-3. Yes, this loss was unforeseen. And yes, you got a budding amount of injuries going to impact that offensive line, which is going to impact the pass protection, the running game even more. If you're having questions halfway through the season about your new OC, and now some of your veteran players are calling them out and taking that to the head coach, that adds another layer to this thing. And if not managed right, if not squashed, it can derail a season incredibly quickly, in my opinion. Again, a lot of you guys were at the game. You seen it. You saw it. You alerted me to it, and I did reach out to a lot of them. So we'll have to wait and see what shakes out and go from there. All right, guys, let's get into the show. Let's get into the 5 headlines now. Get ready for Anthony, Roar Lions UK, etc., etc. And let's kick it all off now and get the show rock and rolling going. Real quick before we do that, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. We are 30 subs away from hitting 15,500. Also, if you would be so kind, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button, the like button, hit all the buttons. All right, guys, with all that done, set of the way, 5 headlines now. All right, 5 glorious headlines heading our way. Detroit Lions are lost without any offensive line to match their identity. SB Nation, opinion by Ryan Matthews. I would agree with them. Lions rely a whole lot on that offensive line in past years with MCDC to enforce their will on the opposing team. And you could say early in the season, maybe we could write off some of this as, hey, new pieces getting accustomed to each other, new aspects, trying to work themselves out. This far in the season, though, you can also kind of come to the conclusion the Lions' offensive line is nowhere near what it has been the last several seasons. And now you add injuries on top of that. Well, We're going to have to wait and see what the Lions do. If they do anything today, if they sign some guys off the street, but without an offensive line, and I think Ryan Matthews is correct with that, the Lions, as we know it, are going to be a little bit different until they can get to a point where they can change that offensive line. Penei Sewell, we'll find out probably today or tomorrow at the latest if he's going to play this upcoming weekend. Same with Taylor Decker. If both of them are out, it is going to change things exponentially for this team. No matter who the subs are, the next man up isn't always the same, especially when you're talking to people right at the line of scrimmage for either the O or defensive lines. The guard situation, Ratledge, in my opinion, he's like most rookies. He has moments of success, other moments where you can see his lack of experience gets exploited. And now with Chris Mahogany out for some time, can Yodi or somebody else kind of fill in the shoes, or do the Lions make a move today? All can be true, and we're going to have to wait and see. I think Ryan Matthews does a real good job with this story, breaking it down how the Lions' identity on offense, let alone with the offensive line, has been changed. And it's not just injuries. It's not just retirement. It's a culmination of things, and they need to figure this thing out going forward. Otherwise, the Lions' season is probably going to be different than most of us anticipated. Next to the 5 headlines now, the Lions now have a shot to bring in a defensive back who led the league in interceptions not too long ago to help out. A to Z Sports, Mike Payton with this one. And to be fair, I don't even remember this guy, but he is an 8 or 9 year vet. He did lead the NFL in interceptions. Yes, it was 2018, but Desmond Kiez was released from the Browns yesterday, and if I murdered that name, I apologize. Trying to check into him. He's not somebody I'm as familiar with, but here's what we can say. The NFL trade deadline is less than 24 hours away. If the Lions are going to make moves, it would be my opinion they're going to focus on that offensive line, which means if you have questions about Kirby Joseph and some of your depth at the safety room, is this something that seems like more of a Brad Holmes move? It does, in my opinion. Why? All you got to do is sign the guy. You don't have to give up draft capital or anything else. The Lions have to be looking and combing to try to find a little bit more help there. At least that would be the wide range assumption. And if possible, maybe this is somebody that can kick the tires on and bring on in. We'll see what shakes out later today. Lions are next to the 5 headlines now. Lions are confident Marcus Davenport will return this season. Pro Football Rumors by Ben Levine. You know, Marcus Davenport, here's what I would say. At the start of the year, I understand he was playing great in training camp, everything else, and then the season got here. I actually was not unimpressed with him while he was playing, but the age-old story, can he stay on the field, seems to be answering itself. You know, he had a bit of a pec injury. I'm surprised he's still out, but MCDC in a recent, press conference did give some insight. He said, quote, "I can't give you a definitive. This is when he's going to be back," Campbell said via Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press. Quote, "I am just very confident he is going to be back. We're going to get him back here," end quote. Davenport, I think the Lions defensive line has actually superseded expectations this year. The front 7 is one of the better units in the NFL, and they are getting a ton of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Adding Davenport, do I think it would change the game for them? No, but would it be another depth piece? I would say that answer is yes. Lions do not really have much on the line when it comes to Davenport. His contract, as you're all probably painfully aware at this point, is really centered on if he plays. If he doesn't play, he doesn't get paid. So he is only making peanuts right now, even by NFL standards. We'll have to wait and see if he can get healthy, get on the field, and if MCDC is right, that he can help add to the team. All right, next to the 5 glorious headlines now. Titan trade rumor gives Lions no-brainer target to help injured offensive line. The Sporting News, Ryan Bowman with this one. We've talked about this, I want to say, the last 2 days now, and here's what it is. Kevin Zeitler, the former all-world guard, I think you could say, for the Baltimore Ravens, and yes, I thought he was one of the top 2 or 3 right guards in the NFL last year, has been rumored now for about 48 hours to be a part of a trade package to come to the Detroit Lions. What it all details, I don't know. Zeitler, as you guys remember, didn't re-sign with the Detroit Lions because he wanted to be closer to family, etc. You know, and at this point in his career, at 35 years old, I understand it. Maybe there's some things more valuable to him than playing for a championship. Lions, though, from all different reports, Brad Holmes was on the phone with a number of teams during Sunday's game talking about possible trades. Zeitler's return would raise a question, though. If you brought him in, what do you do with your rookie? Nate Ratledge? Do you move him to the left guard? Do you move him to center? Here's what I would say. I think it's a tough ask to move a rookie somewhere on the offensive line unless they've got a lot of experience with it. So with Zeitler, do you move him to left guard? Would he be open to that? From a coaching perspective, you do what you feel is best for the team. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve, but if the Lions were to acquire him, if it was me, I would be playing him at left guard and let Ratledge stay at right guard just because I think it's going to be easier for Zeitler to make the adjustment than it would be for Ratledge. I guess there could be a situation where they make another addition too, and now maybe somebody gets moved to center, although I don't know that. That's purely my thinking as a coach. Zeitler would upgrade the offensive line a whole lot. I think you, me, and everybody in between would agree upon that. We're going to have to wait till 4 o'clock today to see if Brad Holmes does anything. The further we get, or the closer we get to 4 o'clock, the less I think that is a possibility. All right, the good, the bad, the ugly from Detroit Lions. Lost to Vikings. Detroit Lions and SI by John Macarone with this one. Was there good? Yeah, there was. We're all going to focus on it right now? Probably not so much, but let's also dive into it because let's face it, Lions are not out of the race for the North, the NFC as a whole, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of seasons still to play and what to see how things shake out. All right, offense had a solid start to the game. I think we all agree with that. That first drive was phenomenal, especially the 4th and 4 completion to Sam Laporta that went for a score. After that, though, you probably could say there's a little bit of things that need to be cleaned up. But the defense is not one of them. I think most of us agree when the Lions lost, the defense was put in a number of bad situations and still found a way to keep the Lions relevant in the game. Detroit's defense was able to generate 18 pressures and 5 sacks on J.J. McCarthy, making life difficult for the former Michigan Wolverine single caller. The issues began compiling themselves on the offensive side of the ball. You guys get it. The Lions did not block well. Goff was often under pressure. The running attack rarely had open holes to go through. There were a couple moments in the second half, but in the second half, and even then, it seemed like the Lions were trying to go away from it. The issues went from the offensive side to special teams. Twice during the game, we all watched the game and saw long kickoff returns given up by the Detroit Lions, and then obviously the massive blocked field goal that led to a long return, etc. And basically, since we lost by 3 points, that was a huge impact on the game. Another bright spot for the Detroit Lions, though, was Terrion Arnold. You look at how he played. He had a couple pass defenses, had his first NFL career pick. These are strong signs for him going forward, especially since some of you like him, some of you don't like him. I'll let you come to your own devices. Despite there being an emphasis on executing better on third down, though, Detroit Lions continue to struggle this season on third down. Detroit's offense only went a 5 for 17 on third down. Even Dan Campbell was surprised when looking at the numbers in his post-game press conference. Lions need to address this because even though they were as bad as they were on third down, one of those 5 was still the first time all season the Lions had completed a 3rd and 10 or longer and converted it into a first down. So throughout the season, the Lions have struggled on third down, and that hasn't changed as of yet. They're going to have to fix that. Otherwise, this season, we'll have to wait and see what shakes out. All right, with all that done, set out of the way, we're going to get back into the main topic today before Anthony joins us here. You know what? Let's skip the main topic. Let's get into the Dude Crew comment section. We've kind of already covered the main topic. So we've got Anthony from Roar Lions UK joining us here in about 10 minutes. So I want to try to fit in some of you guys as best I can and not to overly crowded. All right, let me scroll to the top of the screen. I'm still scrolling. I'm still moving. And here we go. Michael D, greetings, salutations, Coach Dan and Duke Crew, exclamation point, one pride, woo, good to see you as always. JDC, morning all, same to you. Shamir, greetings, salutations, Duke Crew family. Hey, always good to see you in the chat. Riley, good morning, Coach Dan and the Duke Crew. Man, 100%, and man, you are up extra early today. Riley, let's see, JDC, Michael, Shamir are strong. Morning, Riley, says Michael. Great, good morning, Riley, says Shamir. JDC, looks like we have oh boy, here we go, between Goff and Morton. I'm going to keep working on it, but I do trust the people I've talked to. I also trust what it seems like about 15 to 20 of you guys seen with your own eyes during the game. Maybe there's more of you guys, but there were so many of you guys that messaged me after the game, and I don't really check my phone during a live cast. So after the game, I saw it. I kind of wrote it off originally as, just a heated moment. But as you heard more and more about different people, players, coaches getting into it, that's not a good sign, especially, again, when you leave the locker room. You know whatever happens in the locker room, even if you have, say, the Detroit Lions media department in their filming or NFL films, they keep that stuff fairly quiet unless it's something really egregious. So they're not going to air that. You leave that locker room, though, that's where things change. I've worked in the Silverdome on the sidelines and at Ford Field, and I can tell you, you're fair game from a reporting standpoint. You say something, you do something. It's a reporter's prerogative, I guess, but the fact that those guys were coming down the tunnel and so obviously getting into it about things, questioning each other, it's not a good look. Johnny L, good morning, folks. Back at you. JDC, morning at you. Riley, shout out. Hey, thank you for this. A shout out Coach Dan for his invite into the Coaching Hall of Fame. Excellent honor. Yeah, we got the call yesterday, whenever it was, 10 a.m. our time or something like that. Was not expecting it, but talked to the wife about it, and her only question was not a congratulations, not, hey, way to go. It's like, man, do I have to fly to China? Cynthia, good morning, Coach Dan, the Duke crew, exclamation point, here we go, and back at you. Dave, what's up, Coach and crew, question mark. If I'm an offensive player for the Lions, I'd be upset with Morton. You can tell why he's been fired everywhere before. He's definitely going to be under a microscope. Let's be honest. As fair as we all may want to be, John Morton's under a microscope right now. He was at the start of this season, you're replacing Ben Johnson, and that magnifying glass is really zooming in on him. The only way that thing's going to change is if you go 3, 4, 5, 29,000 games where the Lions are just scoring 30, 40 points a game, get back to looking like the offense used to look, because the Lions' offense has looked mostly like it's in neutral the last month, in my opinion. Johnny L, I would have liked to hear that one 100%. Trey Raber, good morning, Coach Dan, the Mighty Duke crew. Let's go get us some additions. Woo! Exclamation point. I've let it be known what I would like to do. And again, kudos to other teams that are making acquisitions. It's got to be tough being Brad Holmes and looking around saying, hey, man, this team just added that player, this player, whatever. It's basically a bidding war, arms race, if you will, across the NFL, let alone the NFC right now. Teams are trying to make themselves better. And I know as a Lions fan, it's difficult to watch everybody else go buy new Christmas toys, and yet we're sitting here just twiddling our thumbs. He must have some opinion, if he doesn't make a move today, that the Lions are good to go. And we've heard MCDC say it. The only counter to that I would throw out there, and again, I was talking to the wife about it yesterday, is, in my opinion, the post-game presser for the Lions on Sunday, MCDC, that's the first time I've really seen him look noticeably ill, like he didn't want to talk about an injury situation or this guy might be gone for the year. And then yesterday's presser, I thought you saw even more. I think he's starting to show some real signs of fatigue and stress, in my opinion, that he understands. Lions have a golden opportunity this season. But once again, after last year and all the injuries, you're seeing those things creep up again. And I think he's got to be a little stressed that you could derail another season due to all the injuries the Lions are suffering through. Lionel, good morning, Coach and Duke crew worldwide. Exclamation point. Are we ready to command Washington this weekend? I see what you did there. Question mark. Pretty sure we need some offense line help still. Lightning and Thundercats. Commanders, every NFL team has injuries, and they definitely have a few guys that are going to be out. I want to say their cornerback that used to play with the Saints, I don't remember his name offhand, is out. Obviously, Daniels, the second-year quarterback, is going to be out. Still, prayers for that kid, man. That's a gruesome injury. If you haven't seen it, you may not want to see it. Anymore. Good morning, Coach Dan and Duke crew. What a team. What a podcast. Exclamation point. What a time. Be a Lions fan. Woo! I'll take that. And good morning, as always, Henry. I tell the Hunt, wow, I wonder if this has anything to do with Goff and a heated discussion with Hank and Dan on the sidelines coming out of the locker room at halftime. To your point, it does sound like there's and I know I've referenced this a few times today, but your point is what a lot of people have pointed out to me, and then trying to reach out to some reporters, et cetera, over in Detroit. The full situation, nobody seems to know exactly what's going on. They all say the same thing, though. It was pretty nasty, and there are reports that after the game in the locker room, Goff and Morton got into it fairly close proximity of each other. Not like, hey, people had to separate them, but they definitely had some choice words for each other. I think that's something we can all agree on. All right, Trey, what's good or big question mark? Not surprised by this headline. If you were at the game Sunday, you could see Morton and Goff getting into it coming out of the second half. Jared was screaming. All right. And again, some of it I did not know. Some of it you guys all alluded me to, and then I made some calls, sent some texts out and stuff like that. But again, going back to the tape, watching the body language of Jared Goff, especially in that second half, you could see something noticeably change when he got into the huddle. You could tell basically when he did not agree with a play call or two. Thomas, no way that's true. Exclamation point, Goff is too passive. And that was kind of my thought is, man, if whatever's eating at Goff, it had to be something he really strongly doesn't agree with. Because I think, Thomas, you're spot on. Normally, Jared Goff, a lot of people used to say he looked like a surfer dude, like, hey, man, or whatever. And I would agree. He seems like, kumbaya, 1950s, whatever I say, Mayberry kind of guy. And, something definitely got under his skin. Until then, I was sitting 3 rows behind the bench and watched it all look like he was telling Hank, I need time. It probably does. We all agree. He has not had much time. You could say even against Cincinnati. The Browns, I think we all wrote off that, man, that defensive front is just that good. Because the Browns did come in with, notably one of the better defenses around. And then we saw the Cincinnati game, wrote it off probably somewhat that, hey, Manu was the left tackle, didn't pay much attention to it. But just beyond those games, Jared Goff this season has been under a lot of duress. And to his credit, for the most part, he's held up fairly well. The problem I have is this offense is changing exponentially. I know we've gone through it in the last month saying, man, you've had to go with more 2 tight end formations. Some of us would have said that's because of John Morton's desires. I know some of us have also talked about it that maybe that's to protect the offensive line a bit. Whatever it is, Detroit Lions offense isn't what it was last year. Is it John Morton? Is it the offensive line? Is it a culmination of things? What we do know is the frustration starting to hit the players and coaches. Trey, until I seen that too, felt like they were all worked up about something at halftime. That does seem to be it. Johnny L, hey coach, did you get a chance to watch the video I sent you yesterday? Question mark, Peanut Hawk. No, I did not. I'll check that out. It was a busy day with the news that came down and etc. Plus, I had coaching duties yesterday. Big Eddie, Riley O'Brien, Hall of Famer YouTube? No, for international basketball. So there you go, Big Eddie. Trey, seen it and a few coaches getting into it coming out for the second half. Thomas, it wasn't just a few of them. Okay, fair enough. Johnny, oh boy, here we go. Southwest, greetings, salutations, Duke crew, woo, and back at you as always, my friend. Thomas, why wasn't any of the beat writers talking about this question mark? Why didn't anyone that is close to the team report this? That I don't know. And I know I mentioned this earlier. What happens in the locker room, that's hands off. Nobody does that unless it's just really egregious. I can't speak for every reporter. Me, myself, and I, having been a coach for a long time, when I would go to the Silver Dome or Ford Field or whatever, I try to leave that type of stuff alone for the most part. There were times, obviously, you have to report it. Like there was one incident, you're going 30 years ago, where Penny Blades and Chris Spielman got into it. It didn't come to blows or anything, but I did have to report on it because they were definitely chewing each other's bubble gum, would be a good way to put it. Anymore, and I had a great expiration for Morton. Seems the past few games he's been proven wrong. Yeah, I think a lot of us had high hopes for Johnny Morton. Right now, though, it's not going well for him. Drake, until the Hun, any rough idea what they were all bent up about? We'll have to find out. Hookadoo, good morning, Duke crew. One pride, a yelling match. Goff should have a bullhorn in Morton's face, exclamation points. And that could be what it's getting to. It could be getting to Goff has been patient with him. Remember, he's one of the ones who vocalized he wanted John Morton here to be the next OC. And now that we're getting this far into the season, maybe it's frustrations about some of the play calling, the assignments. I know there were a lot of people that reported that there were some Lions players that were less than happy about all the shotgun formations that were being called for that game. Everybody's when you don't win, everything's up for review, and especially in a game that you were felt to have won by a significant amount. And in my opinion, special teams and the offense really kind of sunk the ship. Southwest Lions need to trade for an offensive lineman. I agree. And I know there's a lot of rumors and speculations out there that we could be going for Joel Bittner from the Browns or Zeitler coming back from the Tennessee Titans. There could be some other ones too I'm not privy to. I think the Lions, if you really want to right the ship and make this team strong, because I think anybody watching the show will say, hey, that defense this year has been far better than anticipated. It's really been the offense and the special teams that have been kind of dragging us back. So if you fix the offensive line, you probably fix the offense to a certain degree, keep this going forward. And I think you do have an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. All right, guys, it is halfway through the show. We're going to bring on the most wise individual in all the lands. We're going to bring on Anthony from Roar Lions UK. Let's see what he has to say about all this. Good afternoon, Anthony. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you, Dan. I hope you're well. I hope the Dew crew are well, and congratulations to you on your Hall of Fame entry. Well deserved, and very happy for you, bud.
They must have ran out of candidates for me to get in. That's all you have to say. So let's get on to the Detroit Lions. There does seem to be some growing frustration. That's probably the best way to word it, between Lions coaches, maybe each other, maybe some of the players. A lot of people who attended the game, I guess were close enough to the tunnel, say that there were heated matches, shouting matches between MCDC, Hank Fraley, Goff, and some coaches, some players. What do you think this is all about?
I mean, it's the stress that comes with being a contender for a Super Bowl, right? Like, this is, you're no longer some gritty underdog that's just playing hard in games, and it doesn't really matter what you do because you're building the team and, you've got a few years away from contention. You're at contention point now. There are no excuses anymore. There is a lot of pressure on you. You're the hunted, and you're expected to go out and go to a Super Bowl, and that with that comes pressure. It's something they're not used to. Mentally, you've got to change your entire point of view as a player. You're not trying to upset people anymore. You're trying to keep people down. You're trying to assert your dominance. And when things don't go your way, when you hit a little bit of a roadblock like they did in the Vikings game, it's going to spill over into frustration because, look, we've got no excuse to lose these sort of games anymore. We've got no excuse for looking this bad. We're making basic mistakes. The pressure is getting to you a little bit, but it's a natural progression. All teams do it when you're going to the front and you're trying to compete for a Super Bowl. Like that pressure gets at you. It's about how you overcome it ultimately at the end of the day. But I think it's good in a way that we're finally seeing them start to chirp at one another, because I think there's been too much, oh yeah, everything's good in the hood and we're fine. It shows they care, like they're bothered by this. It's bothering them that they're not playing the best football they can, and they are getting in each other's grill. And, I'm sure as a coach and that, you've probably had times when you've chirp with someone, but it's always for the betterment because you want them to do the best possible. So you're seeing the shift in expectations here, the change in mentality that comes with it. And these are just some things that happen because, again, the other day was not acceptable, not in the slightest, and they should be pissed with one another.
Let's dive into this next question from multi different layers. We all know today's the trade deadline. A, do you think Brad Holmes does anything today? B, if he does something, what should he go out and acquire?
I would hope that he does. From my personal point of view, I think we should be attacking the trade market. Why? Because this is a great time for us to go out and do it. I think the AFC is the weakest it's been in some time. I think our rivals in the NFC are bolstering their ranks as well. And you've got to understand that, yes, while we're building for the future and we want to pay all these shiny, massive contracts to all our young players and that, the aim of the day is not to pay as many of our players as possible and pay them to the moon. It's to win a Super Bowl. Right. And to do that, you have to make sacrifices. To do that, you're going to have to sacrifice some of your long-term future for the now. We cannot just afford to keep wasting years because of injury issues. I know we're a bit banged up on the offensive line. I've been saying for years now, the lack of quality depth we've got on this line is a mistake that has not been really addressed in drafts. I know we've got 2 rookies on there at the minute, but we're already down to the bare bones there now that we've had a few knocks. So I would hope that he does go out today, at least tries to bring in some veteran offensive line help to go with the young guys to maybe fill some of these gaps and to provide depth. And then you're probably looking at your secondary as well, because, while the Legion of Whom did well the other week, this week just proves you can't do that consistently if you want to go to a Super Bowl. You can't just keep throwing practice squad and street guys out there and praying that they do a job, because ultimately it's just not sustainable. So you need a little bit more depth in your secondary as well. So, I think you've got to go out there and be active. You've got to go with the times. Brad has done a tremendous job building this roster through his free agency moves, through his drafts. It's been perfect. I just think the in-season moves can be a bit better. I know people will say he got Za'Darius last year. That was needs must because Hutch was hurt. But I just think the general supplementation of the roster during the season and at the deadline, taking advantage of some of these teams who are going to be fire sailing. We've just seen the Bengals get rid of another guy, I think he needs to be active, and I think we need to supplement this roster to allow us to go for a Super Bowl. I'm not getting to the playoffs and been told, oh, we're injured, it doesn't matter this next year. That's the problem with having a large window. You make excuses, very easy excuses to get out and just say, oh, well, this next year. And in a few years, you're like the Ravens and the Bills who've done nothing, and it's all for nothing. So I hope he's busy today for sure. Whether he does or not, I don't know, though.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. And I've never made it a question on this show that myself as a coach, I'm highly aggressive, or when I've been a GM, you get an opportunity to win, like you're alluding to. The Lions have a very talented team, but that window closes quickly. Players change, health changes. If you're the Lions right now, let's ask the $1 million question to you, Anthony. You're looking at John Morton. Your thoughts halfway through the season are what?
I mean, it's tough. You don't want to judge a guy too early. Half a season is half a season, but at the same point, again, we go back to the point, we're in a Super Bowl window right now. We can't afford for problems like this to go on for too long. I mean, Dan had fired Anthony Lynn by this point, or stripped him of his play calling duties by this point. I think pretty much during the first year, if something wasn't working, you fix it quickly. And the offense, there's some noticeable issues that are, troubling, let's just say. I'm not going to say it's the end of the world yet, but there are issues that are happening in offense, like, turnovers. Right. We got another turnover against the Vikings. A wonderful interception from Terry Arnold, turned the ball over. What did we do? We went 3 and out with -1 yard. Our inability to make teams pay on offense when we're getting turnovers on defense is worrying. Someone put out a stat yesterday. I think we got like 4 touchdowns off 20 turnovers or something like that. It's crazy. Like, you can't afford to do that so much. That's on the offensive play calling. The other day, his stubbornness in wanting to run between the tackles and do all this behind the line of scrimmage passing, screen passes, short slants, stuff like that. That's exactly what the Minnesota Vikings eat. They feast on it. They are a heavy blitzing team who like to back you into a corner and just go all in and smash you. And all he did was throw screens and try and run between the tackles and throw before the sticks so the Minnesota defense can rally towards you. There was no offensive game plan whatsoever other than, I'm going to do it my way and, it's going to work. That's not a good offensive coordinator. Ben's thing was, Ben was able to adapt to situations, to teams. There was a different game plan every week. You've got different playmakers, use them. It was quite clear the Vikings had absolutely no answer to Jameson Williams at all. And yet we're not using him till the fourth quarter. They're treating him like a cheat code that they have to earn the right to use him. Like, they're going to play 3 quarters, then we can introduce the big weapon. Get him going early. Get him going early, and it doesn't have to be 30-yard shots downfield that Goff doesn't have time to sit in the pocket for. Get him going in the short to intermediate game. They're going to deal with his speed. Tesla has gone AWOL. You've not used him at all. One of your best contested catch guys out there, you're not using him. You're not stretching defenses. You're allowing defenses to creep up on you, stack a box, stop you running the ball, which is what Morton wants to do. So, for me, he's showing a real stubbornness here that hits his way or no way. And that's what we used to get at Patricia for. That's what we used to get at his guys for, because they're so supremely confident that their way works that they're not willing to adapt. And the NFL, unfortunately, catches up with you. It's, these defensive coordinators spend, 18 hours a day figuring a way to stop you, and eventually they'll find a way to do it. Now, every team in the league knows what to do against us. So is he going to adapt? Is he going to use different guys? Is he going to show us something different next week? That's the concern I have with him right now, his inability to be flexible with his play calling. And it doesn't help that the line's injured, but how many times, you have injured offensive lines at times. You adapt. You get the ball out quicker. You run outside the tackles. You get guys in space. There's ways to overcome a bad offensive line, which he's just not doing. So I am concerned. I'm not really at pull the plug stage yet, but there are worrying trends for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing play-by-play for the game with the Duke crew, and I know I mentioned it a few different times, especially as the game progressed. In the first quarter, okay, maybe you're just easing your way into things or something, but by halftime, especially in the third quarter when we didn't seem to really make any adjustments until that final 2-minute drill drive, I was sitting here just going, man, it's almost like he had zero idea, John Morton I'm talking about here, had zero idea what Brian Flores does on defense. The fact that he kept blitzing our middle and in delayed blitzes with linebackers and asking, Gibbs to pick up a 250, 260-pound guy and not get creamed, and especially when that guy's got like a 3-5 yard head start sprint at Gibbs. How about another tight end come over, ask the line block in, let Gibbs, chip somebody on the wing? I don't know, but John Morton did not seem to have a game plan.
Or use Monty. Brian Flores puts it up in neon signs behind him. This is what I'm doing. He doesn't even try to hide what he's doing. And you're absolutely right. He just puts it out there. I'm going to blitz you to hell.
Right.
The Lions have scored 30 in a row. 30 points 5 times in a row against this Vikings defense. Why? Because they knew what was coming. They've got the weapons to supplement it and deal with it. And they put the points down on it. We have the perfect game plan. And for some reason, we're like, nah, fam. We're just going to do what we do. It's going to play right into their hands, but we're just better than them. And, using Gibbs in pass protection when he's been in for an entire drive, and he's completely gassed. There was that sack in the red zone. He'd been in every play on the drive. And Monty sat there on the bench. Why are you not using Monty in pass pro? Why are you using the running back that's been on the field and is gassed to protect your quarterback? Stupid errors that, we can all see. You're 100% right.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from that with John Morton and get back to the offensive line, because at least in my opinion, it doesn't have to be your opinion. The Lions seem sound in every aspect of the game right now, other than maybe because of injuries and whatever you want to say. Maybe their offensive line isn't strong. If you're Brad Holmes, whose door are you knocking on to try to bring in, or do you think we just go with in-house guys?
I mean, who's left to come back? Manu? What the hell's Manu going to do? Manu's not going to do anything.
Fullback.
There is nobody. There is nobody to come back. And Dan says we're going to get guys back soon. Yeah, we'll get some on defense. We'll get Reed. We'll get Rodrigo. Like, Reed's the one we're missing critically. You'll get Rodrigo. He talks about Pascal and Davenport, but them two at this point are just sick notes, costing this team roster spots and money. We're not going to expect anything from them. You've got to go and knock on the doors of all these teams struggling. Everyone from the Bengals down to the Saints, people who are thinking about this season and what's going to be what, and you've got to find some help there. I do fully believe one of the reasons we've been so good against the Vikings in recent years and their blitz scheme, you have the best center in the NFL. He is able to identify these blitzers, organize his offensive line from the start. You see how measured they look against it. It all starts with the ring general in the middle, who's got that high level IQ to be able to call that out. Glasgow is not that. Right. He's doing an admirable job in tough circumstances, working with 2 rookies there. But against these more intellectually deep scheme teams, he's just not got the IQ to pick all this stuff up and to organize his line properly. You've got to find some help on the interior. Simply. You've got 2 rookies in there. One's hurt now. I think Awashika will be fine, but you've got to probably look and try and find someone who might be a little better in the center position, a little bit more cerebral there. You've got to try something. You've got to find tackle help. Skip is fine in relief, but if you need games, which apparently we're going to need with Decker this year because he's been hurt, you're going to need someone who can come in and do a few games, I reckon, at some point to be able to do it. Cam Robinson was dealt already, I know league average, maybe slightly below league average, but you'd feel better having him on your roster to come in for 3 games than you would whatever we've got knocking around at this moment in time. So, I would be asking every team possible, certainly the ones at the bottom, just, Dolphins say they might be letting some O-linemen go for it. Just get some good depth there, because that's going to be the thing that's going to, that's going to be what handicaps us. We have been very lucky. People don't realize how lucky we've been with offensive line injuries pretty much this entire tenure. Penny's never really been hurt. Frank played for the most part. Zeitler was fully healthy, but, you've got to go out there and find some depth for you. Now, there's no excuse. You've got the deadline. You have trade assets. You've got players you can trade. If you want to do it, there is a way out of this. It just depends whether they want to go away from their system of building from within. But we're at the final 10% now. You're 90% of the way to the Super Bowl. The final 10% is about sacrificing some of what you do for the more immediate future to get there. Are they willing to do it? We'll see.
So let me ask you something, because I'm sure this is going to be a question all Lions fans have. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they're clearly amongst the creme de la creme of the NFC. How is Howie Roseman able to always make additions during free agency, during the draft, during the season, and yet we don't? Do you think there's something Brad should do, or is there a reason why he doesn't do what Roseman does?
So Howie plays the comp pick game incredibly well. That's what he does. They don't pay all their players, the Philadelphia Eagles. Like last year, you let Josh Sweat go, you let Milton Williams go. They're 2 key pivotal parts of your defensive line. Obviously, you've got a lot of young guys in-house who you trust to bring in, but you let them go. They get big contracts elsewhere. They're going to get, 3 comp picks in next year's draft. The pick they gave up for, what's his face from Miami yesterday, it's a 3rd, right?
Right.
If he plays well this year and gets a big contract elsewhere, they could get that 3rd back for him next year. But it doesn't matter that they've lost it this year, because they've got 3 more comp picks coming their way this year. So they've basically given a pick away, and they've got one in reserve, so they can still go to the draft and do it. How he plays the comp game well, he lets players go, builds up those comp picks, which gives him an endless cycle of draft picks to work with at the trade deadline and in the draft. We don't do that. And eventually what Brad's going to have to get to grips with, we're going to have to let some of our good players go. I know Lions fans are desperate to pay everybody. We want to pay Branch. We want to pay Campbell. We want to pay Laporta. We want to pay Gibbs. We want to pay them the biggest contracts that they've ever been for that position. We have a massive hard-on for paying all our players. Brad's going to have to learn to start dealing some of them, getting capital back, letting them go, playing the trade comp market, and getting your picks that way. That's the way that Howie and the Eagles do it. But we just seem desperate to pay all our own guys. That doesn't work. You can't have so many guys on mega contracts. It just sets your system completely out of balance and outbalances your team. But, we don't want to have that conversation. I genuinely think if you offered a lot of Lions fans, pay the entire 23 class and don't get a Super Bowl, or win a Super Bowl and you don't pay 2 or 3 of that 23 class, they'll pick paying the players over winning a Super Bowl. We're losing the final sight here.
Right.
We need to make these opportunities for ourselves. The Eagles do it so they can attack the trade deadline and the draft. We just solely work to attack the draft, which is what we can't do. That's where it's got to change.
How big of a game is Sunday's game against Washington?
I mean, they're all big. Every game's big. I mean, coming off a loss, this is a very beat-up team. 4 players out now. Luvu's now out suspended pending his appeal. It's beaten, it's bruised. You need to go out there and win. The NFC North looks like it's going to be very close this year. You're going to be coming up against Mariota. This is probably going to be now one of the weaker games on your schedule. You need to go out there. And like Dan says, you've got to start fixing these issues you've got. The offense needs to start executing better. Special teams needs to be a hell of a lot better. It's been rubbish all season. We need to see this team just gradually developing, because at the end of the day, what you do in the regular season doesn't matter. We saw that last year. We won 15 games. We got bounced in the first game. If this is just a hard learning growth period during the season, which culminates in us beginning to play our best football in the playoffs, I don't mind. But obviously, you've got to get to the dance first, and you've got the Eagles and the Packers after this as well. The Eagles and Packers are going to look at that Vikings game, and they're two teams who can hurt us exactly the same way. So ideally, you want to win this, get the momentum back, and just get the ship sailing smoothly. It's a big game, but I'm pretty sure we'd be able to win it. We've not lost back-to-back in 3 years for a reason. The team is resilient. It knows what it's doing, and this coaching staff is generally adaptable to change now. So, yeah, it's big, but we'll win, I believe.
All right. He is the most wise man in all the universe. He is Anthony from Roar Lions UK. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a shout out to everybody where they can find you, support your great work and content, and be a part of all that you do.
Yeah, as Dan said, you can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. We're a group of Detroit Lions fans from across the pond. So if you want to come and get your Lions news and views from a British perspective, then drop by and say hi. We're live on Mondays doing game reviews. We do previews on Thursday. I talk college football on Wednesdays, so drop by if you like college ball, chat that. And then we're live during the games as well. So yeah, just drop by, say hi. We love chatting all stuff Lions. I know it's a disappointing one this week, but, we bounce back. We ride through it all, thick and thin. We will get to where we want to eventually. It's just every loss stings, right? So you've got to have these sessions sometimes where you just let a little bit out. But at the end of the day, we all still back this team 100%. So, yeah, appreciate you, Dan. Appreciate the Jew crew as always. And again, once again, congratulations to you, good sir. You've earned that. No one more deserving.
Thanks, man. Well, like I said, man, they ran out of good candidates, so they went to the backups. All right, Anthony, we'll see you on the next one, man.
See you on the next one, bud. You take care. Have a good day, all.
You too, man. All right, guys, let's get, we got about 9 minutes here. Get a few of your comments in. Won't obviously be able to get them all in. Thomas, release Davenport, make room for Ahmed Hassanin. Hey, Hassanin, just so you guys know, I was sent a photo of him going into the Lions facilities, so probably getting some news on him today. At least I'm assuming that was a current photo, not one from like the spring or something like that. Southwest, a trap game. Minnesota stunk last week, showed who they really was. We came from a bye. They lose basically out of the playoffs. Refs fake fumbles, missed field goals on refs. Yeah, the fumble by Montgomery, obviously not ideal, especially since he just got it like on a 3rd and 17. He picked up the first down and then got hit from behind. The special teams, in my opinion, man, they really, really impacted the game. All right, Cynthia JK, good point, exclamation point. Breeze 9, thank goodness Brad doesn't waste money on an edge rusher. We need offensive linemen. Hey, there you go. Pierce, Thomas, off-season surgery is coming for Kirby. Probably accurate. Mike K, we're so cooked. Let's hope not. JDC, go Lions. I like the way you're thinking. Don, Pierce, it's not good, but he's basically a rookie. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Brad, hasn't gotten it done in the 3 years. Heart is on Brad, not like it or not. Yeah, like it or not, we'll see what he does. He has made deals the last 2 trade deadlines. We'll see if he'll make it 3 straight. Asadi Madley, good morning, my friend and Coach Dan and Duke Crew. Back at you. Hopefully it's a good afternoon in Cairo. Till on Kirby still has a noticeable limp. Yeah, and I know we've talked about it before on the show. My opinion, you really got to get that thing like 2 months worth of rehab to heal up. So is that going to happen in an NFL season? No. But now he has had at least basically a month off. Pierce Don Burr and some of the depth behind him is also gone. Correct that. Thomas might start rooting for the Eagles because Howie has that go for it now mindset. He does, man. And I know I've talked about it, what I would do a ton. You get an opportunity, which the Lions clearly do. They are, I would be more aggressive after it. And you can even use the Rams as an example. Everybody said, man, you'll be dead for a decade giving up all those picks. If you draft well, you develop well, you trust in your scouting department. The Rams had, one down season, and then they were back in the playoffs. So just a thought. Mike K. Jerry has a trade in Dallas. There you go. Steve A. Graham was joking about Jared Goff. No story there. Graham said he likes to work with JG. He said he has more demanding. Okay, he is more demanding. Thomas, double backhand slap the like out. Yes, if you would, hit the like and subscribe, and thank you for that. Pat, if things are that bad, I think DC will call the plays. He's called plays before. He has, after Anthony Lynn for a brief while. James, we aren't using JMO the right way. They used them later in the game, but again, I know we talked about it with Anthony. I didn't think there was really much foot on the gas from John Morton until it was go time with like 3 minutes left in the game. If it was me, I'm always coming out as coach, guns blazing. But again, talking about Brian Flores, if you didn't know what he was going to do on defense, you should be fired as a coach, in my opinion. Why? He makes no bones about it. Can he beat it? If he can't, too bad for you. And just my way of coaching over the decades, I'll give you my playbook. It's your job to stop it, and I don't think you're going to be able to. Pierce, whoever brought up Bitcoin for a rental, I think we do it. I would too, because he is a natural left guard. Fill in right away for Hogany. And you know what? He might not be what he once was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's still pretty dang good. Same old soup, just reheated. Much more tardy than usual, but I'm present. Always pleasure to see you, my friend. Donber, Jerry, just talking. Could be. Thomas, Jerry is sneezed. Oh, I'll go with that. Mike K, are we cooked? Goofed? How about that? Dr. Detroit, depending on rookies in a Super Bowl run is Nave. I'll go with that. Lauren Lyons, greetings, salutations, Coach Dan and Duke Crew. Under 9 hours to trade deadline, and Brad Holmes needs to make a move. Go Lions. Woo! Exclamation point. I agree with you fully. JK, I don't know. Hopefully they clean it up soon. I concur. Mike K, woo! Who doesn't like to woo in the morning? Till on, Lions need to draft offensive line and a linebacker to replace Anzalone. To your point, not about the offensive line, but about Anzalone, I wonder what they will do with him this offseason. I'll have to wait and see. Offensive line, if it's me, your first and second round pick both have to go on a center and a left tackle. It's no disrespect to Giovanni Manu. I just don't think he's going to be ready to be a starting left tackle next year. Good morning, Cynthia. Have a good day with a thumbs up, says Hostility Madly. Mouseburger, grip morning, same old soup, just reheated. Hookadoo. Mr. Hassanin, have a grit-filled afternoon, sir. There you go. Michael, seems silly having multiple Morton up in the press booth with the opposition standing over his shoulder, giving the plays back to them. Well, just so you know, there is a divider. It's not like you can directly see into the other press booth. Maybe if you drill a hole or something like that and have some spy gear going on, but you can't see what the other team's doing or hear them or whatever. They soundproof it pretty fairly, especially at the NFL level. Everybody has their opinion about being up in the booth or down the sideline. I would be down on the sideline, just have more of the energy of the game, but to each their own. Raise 9, if anyone paid attention, it's never a good thing when players are calling Goff a diva. We'll see if I haven't heard about that, but I guess I'll look into it. Donber, I'm probably the calmest guy in this chat, laughing out loud, feet up and not worried right now. It's a wait and see approach with me. I'll go with that. Pierce, Donber, have Brad and MCDC put Mahogany on IR yet? Feel the roster spot up? Yeah, free the roster spot up. I don't think they have as of yet. The MCDC did confirm it was a broken bone in the leg or foot, I should say. One of those two, I don't remember offhand. So he's going to be out for a while. We get that. He's not playing, like MCDC said, until probably end of December. James, good afternoon. Hookadoo. Steve A. Breeze, it was a joke. Read the article. Henry Moore, good morning, Mr. Hassani. Until the hunt, I wonder if the first drives are Morton, Goff, and MCDC combined, then Morton after that. Could be. JK, Mr. Modley, sir, Mike K, no third down completion all year over 10 yards. They got one this past game, and that's the first time all year. Thomas, let David Shaw or Mark Brunell take over the play calling for Scotty Montgomery. That would probably be next in line if they did make a change. Dr. Detroit, laughing out loud, they scored almost 30 points. The defense is not okay. I would say, Dr. Detroit, though, look at how many of those drives that the Minnesota Vikings scored on were under, 40 yards? So, I think that's part of it. Thomas, 27 points. I know we all love Shep, but we gave up 27 points to a quarterback who has less than 6 games in the league. Again, when you think about the blocked field goal in a couple of the other kick returns, then the fumble too, the Vikings faced a lot of short fields. Donberg, Pierce, I don't think they have as of right now. Very good. Hassany Madley, good morning to all my friends watching Lions Talk Live. What a broadcast. Thank you for the hard work. Anytime, my friend. Hopefully you enjoy it. Southwest, I hate to say he calls, runs, and his rotation stinks with Monty and Gibbs. I'll go with that. Breeze 9, Donber, wise, but it's because you're smart and realize you have no control over what happens. That is correct. All right, guys, there's only 2 minutes left. I'm going to try to get some people on who haven't been on as much. Dan, you're joking, right? Defense was trash. 5 sacks and a loss. Come on, serious talk. The whole team played like garbage. Okay. Thomas, bad field position. That's at least where I'm leaning with it. Cynthia, I would venture to guess if Jared Goff is upset, it's for legitimate reasons. Me too. Eddie's Fish, the Lions need offensive line, and they need to clean up the offensive play calling. I'll agree with both. Fumbled by Monty. There was one, wasn't there? Derek, we're currently holding on to the last wildcard spot in the NFC. That's dangerously close to not making the playoffs. So you are correct with that. Jeremiah, make David Shaw the OC. I wonder if they will. Steve A. Dollar Tree Brad not getting anything worthwhile. Might be accurate. Jason, playoffs are not guaranteed. No, they are not, especially at this point. Kim, third down issues with all the backfield calls that lost yards. Yeah, man, I got so tired of this, the throwouts behind the line of scrimmage. There's no way too many thirds and longs. This is not the offense we expect. I would agree with that. Coach Rock, hope the line and Goff are not at odds. Hope to so too. Looking for more people. Haven't been on as much. How many times has the offense coordinator changed the middle of the season? Not very often, Jennifer, but it does happen. JK, how the heck special teams gave up a blocked field goal and talk about phony effort or fake. Okay, we'll go with that. James, I need to make the text on YouTube bigger. Else, that's beyond me, man. Ken could just say about just about everyone has grown a little tired of Morton and his play calling. That might be accurate. The Lions Den, Brad, better trade for Wiley or Zettler and fire Morton or we're cooked. Could be. We'll see what they do. Lions fan, hired David Shaw as offensive coordinator. That does seem to be growing out there. Something, congratulations, Coach Dan. Well-deserved honor. Thank you for that. I'll take it, I guess. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. The Lions fan, you can tell St. Brown's mannerisms that something was off. I would agree with that. Josh, go get Wiley and Aaron and Keys, Detroit Lions today morning. We'll see if they do. 89, Dr. Funk, I'm not too worried about the team barking at each other. That happens all the time. I'd agree with that in sports, especially if they are losing. If it continues constantly, that it becomes a bigger problem. Well said, my friend. Well said indeed. Trey Fitness, it's not hard for Brad. He needs to stop being cheap. I would agree with that. Get after it. Are you in it to win it or not? Thomas, Monty carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. He fumbled last year against Minnesota. He did, man. 2 straight years against Minnesota. I wouldn't have thought about that without you, man. Thank you for that. KT Source, a lot of them are coming from you guys. The people are there at the game. So a lot of people in the chat, KT, all said the same thing. They saw the disagreements go down, and then I did reach out to some Detroit content media personalities, and they confirmed it. Don Burr, I think Dan takes over play calling, and he gets more involved in believe, though. Okay. Breeze 9 did notice Goff yelling at players on TV. He all right? There you go. Well, there you go then. Eddie's Fish, I don't blame Jared Goff for what he did. Me neither, man. Sometimes you got to light a fire. Adam, because Johnny Moe is a horrible play caller, can't deal with the speedster talent. Yeah, you might be right. He's not using it well. Thomas, Ben 9 has anybody knows Goff is not going to shake the tree. He's to blame himself. First kind of guy that he will take the heat. He hasn't pointed a finger at anybody yet. Correct that. Tay, waypoints. Johnny needs to go. Okay. Johnny Moe, there is a growing sentiment for that. Good morning, James, says Cynthia. Brian, so Goff yelled at him and nothing changed after that. It's not good for the team. All right. Jennifer, John Gruden, OC. We'll see. KT, I was wasn't feeling the hire of John Morton. Yeah, I think you're seeing more and more people kind of corroborate that same mindset there. Dennis, good morning, Duke Crew, and back at you. Get a couple more, and then I got to go. JDC, bring on Washington. We're going to bring them on one way or another. Looking for some other people I haven't been on. Derek, it was a bad game all around. I blame the coaches, the players, the refs, the NFL, the hot dog vendors. Hey, maybe there was some bad hot dogs. James, yay, Anthony, exclamation point. Johnny Gaz, good morning. Dan the Duke Crew, exclamation point. Back at you, my friend. Looking for a few more. Josh, go get Ernie Keys to Detroit today. We'll see if they do. Take away profits. We stink this season. We haven't been the greatest, have we? Broski Bear, Breeze 9, what did Laporta say about Goff? What did Glasgow say? We'll find out. I didn't see anything, but maybe there's something I missed. Don Burt, yeah, the project picks need to end. That's probably accurate. James, that Wild kid would be a good signing if he can play right guard, left guard, and right tackle. There you go. Southwest, we all week Campbell talking about letting the players get away from the game. I think he was wrong. We should have went to work instead of coach was wrong, and it showed. We looked like a team was on vacation. To your point, that's, I think, the second straight bye week where we've come out and not looked good after it. So going to have to revisit some things for sure. Otherwise, the trend will continue. Troy Apple is hilarious. It could be accurate. Susie, Alex, DM5, Coach Dan, Brad Holmes doesn't make a meaningful trade. I think this season is over as far as playoffs and Super Bowl. We'll have to wait and see, my friend. All will be revealed in time. DM5, Brad, Jerome, Leroy, Serial, Bull, Cheapo, Holmes. Could be. Susie, Great commentary, Anthony, especially coming from overseas. There you go. I'm trying to get more people in here. Let's see, Courtney. Morton should let Goff make the play calls. Maybe they'll try that. Josh, go get Chubbs to Detroit today, morning or afternoon. If you got till 4 o'clock, let's see what they do. Steve A, I think it's just normal. JG acting like JG. He was being more demanding. Diva like, yeah, look it up and read more the reports on it. There multiple. Okay, I will check it out. Morton is not good, says Southwest. James laughing on, oh, good one, Anthony. James, I don't think that I've ever been this upset on Lions Talk Live about a game, let alone a coach. It happens, man. It happens. I'll just let it all out. This is part of the therapy. Cynthia, James, me too. Dola Dynamite, this is why Jets fight him. Could be accurate. Gabe, lack of run blocking and penalties lost this game. They definitely didn't help, did they? JK, right, Cynthia. Tayway, Sean McVay was right. Goff is not the guy. All right. Who do we get to replace him? Mary Smith, and yeah, you can see Gibbs struggling, trying to block. Yeah, it's maybe not his greatest forte. Eric and I, everyone, please remember, we all have opinions. At the end of the day, Brad Holmes and MCDC forgot more about the situation in football than we will ever know. So relax, exclamation point, and trust the process play out. I like the way you're thinking there. Well said. Leo, any trades happening on D? We'll find out. I'll stay on it all day long. Leo or offense? We'll find out. Let's see, Henry. That blocked field goal was definitely important. Yeah. He lost by 3, and he lost out on 3 right there, and he gave them great field position. Breeze 9 Goff is killing a lot of plays. I noticed too. All shadows. Tori, I'm not convinced. I think I'm going to need. Oh boy. Let's see, Thomas. In a trade, if we make a more defensive, more on defense, make it a blockbuster! Exclamation point. If it's on offense, make it a backup tackle. We'll see if they do. All right, guys, I've given you as much overtime as I can. I got to get out of here and get ready for work. If there is breaking news, I think we're all hoping there will be today. I'll get it over to you as soon as possible. So if you would be so kind before departing, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit all the buttons. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be a good human being. Do something kind for somebody you don't know. And I'll see you guys all in the next Lions Talk Live, which, let's be real, there's probably going to be some news there. At least we're all hoping. Take care. See you then.